Hello, my name is Aaron Cavanagh and I'm the founder and editor-in-chief of Post-Burnout.com. Post-Burnout.com is a culture website dedicated to venerating burnt-out artists the world over. This is our website's podcast where we publish full-length recordings of our interviews, which are sometimes the unedited versions of our site's articles and at other times are exclusives. If you're a returning listener, thank you for coming back, and if this is your first time listening, thank you for checking us out. We hope you enjoy and consider subscribing, giving the episodes a thumbs up if you're on YouTube, or giving it a rating if you're anywhere else. It really helps us out. Thank you. In this edition of PostBurnout.com interviews, the Laois singer-songwriter Alice Laffan of Just Alice discusses her career, getting into musical theatre and how this influenced her as an artist, her debut track Wait and how it differs from her future releases, her latest single Good Thing and how this indicates the direction she's going in, working with producer Darragh O'Connor at Youngblood Music, her time at BIMM, her upcoming debut EP, and much more.
Hello.
Hey Alice, how's it going? Can you hear me okay?
Yeah, I can hear you. How are you?
I'm perfectly fine. It's nice to
Sorry,
meet you.
1 second. I'll try to get the video. 1 second. Nice to meet you too. Thanks so much for having me on.
Oh, absolutely. Thanks for doing it.
How-
The first thing I was going to start with is a little bit about your background, if that's okay. My understanding is you kind of came from a musical background, from a musical household in Laois, and it was primarily Irish trad. Have I gotten all those details correct so far?
Yeah, so it would be very much traditional in my household. There was a lot of Irish traditional music and then a lot of country music, both Irish country and American country. So there would have been a lot of those influences in my household growing up. So my mother would have been very musical, into accordions and all the trad sort of stuff. So yeah, that's kind of where it came from. And then I would have had a big musical theatre background then coming up as I got a little bit older as well. So I kind of have a very eclectic background there coming from all sides.
Actually, was there musicians in your household? And were you taught music as a kid, or was it more kind of a journey of self-discovery in that regard?
Yeah, it was definitely there was definitely music in my household. Nobody in my family kind of pursued music, but everybody played music as a pastime, like as a hobby and stuff. So my mom would have been very musical. My uncles are in bands their whole lives as well, just kind of local stuff, and then they would have taken part in the kind of traditional Irish music sessions. But I kind of didn't start music until I was in my early teens. I
Yeah.
didn't even realize I liked um, I kind of I didn't realize I had an inclination towards that until I got a little bit older. And then when I was about 13, I got a ukulele,
Oh,
and
cool.
that was where it started. It was definitely the ukulele wasn't really in line with what everybody else in the family were into at the time, but it
Well,
kind of took
ukuleles
off
were
from
like
there.
really popular at one point. I remember, like everyone had a ukulele in
They
their
definitely
act.
they were all the rage back in the 2010s and
Yeah,
into
totally.
like 2016, the rise of YouTube, and
Yeah.
I think Doddle Oddle on YouTube. I don't know if any remembers Dodie Clark. She's
Yeah.
savage, but she was a ukulele legend. So
I think when I think of I don't know if this is correct or not, but in my mind I think of like the Oldie as like a big progenitor of the Yuka trend. But
yeah,
actually, as I said that, I'm trying to think. Actually, I'm not 100% confident that's true, but just in my head, that's what I think of. That's the
yeah.
first artist who I associate with the ukulele, I guess.
Yeah, it would be the same for myself, even though I was playing ukulele maybe before she even kind of became known for it. But I think once it became popular on YouTube, then I was like, yeah, okay, I'm gonna shred the ukulele now. But yeah, no, after I picked up the ukulele, I moved on to guitar, and it kind of just stayed going from there. Then yeah, so I picked up guitar when I was kind of in my early teens, and I would have kind of learned a lot by ear because it would have been happening at home and stuff. And yeah, and I went a couple of lessons and stuff, and I just fell in love with the whole thing. So stay going.
I have to ask. I remember I did the inverse. I started with guitar, and then as a gift, I was given a ukulele, so I tried learning it, and I stopped pretty quickly. I really didn't pursue it because I just had to relearn all the chord structures, and they were totally different on ukulele than they
Mhm.
were on guitar. And I was like, I just do not have the mental space for this. Um, and I could have gotten it if I stuck with it, but I guess I wasn't that dedicated. Did you find that difficult then to make that transition from ukulele to have to relearn the chords for guitar?
I found it was I'm very stubborn,
Yeah.
so I kind of got my ukulele, and it only took a few months before I was like, okay, I need to move onto something bigger now. And I got the guitar, and I just refused to use the top two strings of the guitar for a couple months, and I just tuned the bottom ones like the ukulele and just continued to play ukulele chords on the guitar. So I kind of it took me a while to actually transition from the ukulele into the guitar. But once I did, it definitely did take a lot of practice. It was a lot of, I think, Riptide by Vance Joy was the first song that I learned on both. And I definitely overplayed that song for about maybe 6 months combined on both instruments.
I actually spoke to another musician, Aaron, and or En, and he was saying that was actually the first song he learned too. So that seems to be a common theme, that
It definitely
Riptide Movement song.
It's got the three easy chords for a start. I was actually talking to some little kid. I think his name is Shane. I think he came up to me at a gig there recently, and he told me he was learning guitar, and Riptide was actually the first song that he was learning. So I was like, "It's funny. Even 10 years on, it's still being used. So it's a great song."
Yeah. Did you find like many more sonic possibilities when you added the other two strings to your repertoire?
Yeah, absolutely. I think I kind of transitioned in from as soon as I kind of got a handle on the guitar, I just started writing straight away. So I would kind of write. I'm really into finger picking and a lot of fingerstyle stuff. So I found as soon as I did incorporate those top two, definitely opened up a whole world of possibilities. And I like playing around with different tunings as well. And I think once you kind of get the basics down, you can kind of transition into other cool stuff. And you actually don't need to be that skilled to play in like some of those cool tunings. I use open D a lot, and you actually
Yeah.
don't need to be too skilled
Yeah.
to play a good, nice song on that. So definitely, yeah,
Yeah, actually, most songs that are in, I think, D tuning do just use the actual D string.
yeah,
Yeah.
yeah. And it sounds really nice as well. It sounds really like there's a really nice kind of resonance. I don't know, at least when I feel like I can hear it, but like in that open D and stuff, and it makes it so much easier. It's not so easy when you're trying to play it and you've only got one guitar and you're tuning up and tuning down, but it's definitely it's fun to play around with.
What about when you started adding like capos into the mix and things like that? Did you find that that was then like, oh my god, the amount of possibilities? Because I remember like once I got my first capo or capo, I'm not sure how it's actually pronounced. I've heard both. When I got my first capo slash capo, I like it really was. It was kind of opening up a new world as like a songwriter. It's a very simple device, but I don't know, it really does offer a lot of opportunities. Did you have that when you first started using them?
It does. I think I once I realized that you could put a capo on the guitar and then you don't need to play a B minor with a
Yeah,
bar chord. And I think that did just open up like a whole range of other songs that I could play. But I think I would have been kind of used to that sort of stuff fairly early on. I would have gone to a lot of traditional Irish music sessions, and
yeah,
you've got to know how to play in every key kind of for those. And like when you don't know how to play in every key, the capo's lifesaver.
yeah.
It's really, really good. But yeah, definitely. I think I could level up my guitar skills. I would definitely class myself in the kind of intermediate level still, even though I've been playing
Sure.
a while. I think I'm comfortable at my level that I'm at, but I haven't been able to reach that shred level just yet. But maybe someday.
Yeah, I actually find I've spoken to other artists, and I sometimes find like they sort of I don't know if you had this too, but like they sort of delay releases or even playing live until they feel there's a certain level of competency with the guitar that they have. Where I don't know, I kind of feel like I don't think there's anything wrong with getting out there when your skills are more, as you say, kind of intermediary,
Hmm.
and actually trying to craft songs like that, and then as you play. naturally, your skills will kind of organically develop. I don't know, did you have that too, where it was like, were you shy about like performing to the world while you only had a certain skill set, or were you kind of comfortable from the get-go?
I think I definitely am a perfectionist, so it is hard to play until you feel like you've reached the standard that's in your head. But I think like we're all the same. Even I have a lot of friends who are I can't even say it now, musicians, and
Yeah,
yeah, we're all kind of the same in that like you don't want to put your work out there unless it's the best version of your work that you have. But it's never going to be perfect by our own standards. So you kind of have to learn to get over that little thing in your head that's like, oh no, it could be better. Even when we're in studio, like I record with Darragh from Youngblood Music, and
yeah,
we'll be in the studio together, and I might record a vocal take, even like I think for my first single, we recorded one of the vocal takes like 20 plus times, and I was like, okay, you're just gonna have to cut me off because it's never going to be perfect in my head. And it's the same I find with the guitar, and even for live stuff, then like once you do it, that's it. You can't take it back. So I think for a long time I definitely was like, no, I'm not doing it until I get it perfect. But I think now I'm kind of at a point where I still struggle with this sometimes, but I'm at a point now where I'm like, look, I'll give it my best shot, and what happens happens. And if it goes terribly wrong, I'll get a laugh. And you know, the crowds are usually, they're usually on your side. So
yeah.
I haven't had a bad crowd yet, so
My
it'll
my
happen someday.
advice my advice to musicians is, if you ever like stumble and make a mistake, just don't acknowledge it unless it's like really, unless it really stops the track dead. But like if it's just like a
Mhm.
minor, thing when you're like switching chords or something like that, just don't acknowledge it. Most people won't even notice.
Yeah, and most people don't notice. It is just in your own kind of
Yeah,
your own view. I did my guitar teacher I had when I was 13. She used to say like nobody would know that you made a mistake if your face wasn't so distraught. So
sure.
it definitely does show in your face. So if you can push through that, but it's I think it is a learned thing. I think after a while you kind of just laugh at your own mistakes because we all do make them, and kind of adds to it. You learn from it.
We're all human. We're all fallible.
100%.
I want to ask a little bit about something you mentioned in brief there, which is your musical theater background. Were you a
Mhm.
performer?
Yeah, I definitely I kind of was thrown into musical theatre accidentally. I volunteered at a show one time just for a bit of extra cash as a teenager, and
Sure.
I was backstage and I just immediately fell in love with the whole theatre. And I was late getting into it. I think it was about 15 or 16, but as soon as I kind of got a glimpse at that little peek behind the curtain, I was just like in love. So although I wouldn't have a lot, like you wouldn't maybe know it from the music that I make now, I definitely have a lot of influences from musical theatre. So I spent a lot of time in a musical theatre school here in Laois. Shout out Curtain Call.
Nice. Shout
um,
Kernco.
Curtain Call Stage School. Yeah, and I learned a lot there. I think a lot of the stuff that I learned from that was more so on my performance, but even on I think it influences my songwriting still, um, because in musical theatre you're kind of you're taught how to perform and kind of tell the story of the music that you're performing, and I think that influences my songwriting in that I do try to tell a story with whatever I come up with on the day, or when I sit down to write something. Yeah, I definitely do pull inspiration from that. But yeah, I love musical theatre. I'm a total nerd. um, you could keep me talking for hours on musical theatre, but yeah, yeah, love it.
Well, I won't keep you talking about it for hours, but
Yeah.
I will briefly stay on the topic, which is I want to ask: did you find that the being on stage in that setting, I mean, was that transferable then to when you started the Just Alice project?
Yeah, I think so. I was kind of performing. I was very nervous. I used to get very, very nervous on stage, and I think it kind of helps when you're doing musical theatre. You're not yourself when you go out onto a stage. So
Yeah,
I think it kind of bridges that little like gap of fear. It kind of allows you to transition into performing as yourself because you kind of get to step back from that and people are looking at the character rather than who you are. And it's kind of similar when you're performing as yourself, because you're just the version of yourself that you're showing to people. But I do find with my own music, as I am just Alice, it's literally just me. So I try to be as honest as I can be. So I think the musical theatre performance definitely helped me to make the transition into that. But I think it definitely is different, and I do try to be more authentic with my performance with my own music, because it is very on, it's honest, and it's my own music coming from my own head. And yeah, as most people would be, I try to be as authentic as possible.
Yeah, what was that transition like then? I mean, that's a good point you made there. I think where you were talking about, there is, I guess, a sense of security in the sense that you're playing a
Definitely.
character with, just kind of like sort of bringing other people's material to life. But then like when it is your own material, is there like a sense of nerves about that where it's like, I don't know, it's kind of like an honest thing in a way where you're kind of like really showing a stage you and not a character and not like someone else's thoughts. Is that daunting then, or was it an easy transition?
No, it definitely wasn't an easy transition. So for me, I find I was doing musical theatre performing, and then I was also doing a lot of cover gigs from the time I was kind of in my mid-teens up to say about 18, 19. And I had my first gig then where I performed my own original music, and I had been performing for years, and I thought, okay, like what's another gig? I'm just going to do it and it'll be fine. And I wasn't nervous until I actually got out onto the stage, and I realized, oh man, like this is actually me that they're looking at, and these are my songs and my thoughts, and I'm not just performing somebody else's work. And it was actually the first time, I think, since I was a kid that I actually got really bad stage fright, and
Yeah,
I was shaky. And it was a couple of years ago. I played a set at the arts festival in Carlow, um, and that was the first original set that I ever had. And this like wave of anxiety came over me, and it was a really 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 vulnerable set. But I think I'm glad that I had that moment of, okay, like this is different than cover gigs. And because I think you kind of lose after years of playing the same kind of stuff in a pub or whatever, like weddings and all the rest. Although that's great in its own right, I think you kind of lose the reason why you started, and I
sure.
think having that moment of oh, this is actually scary.
Yeah,
It was good, because it's good to be scared, because I don't know, I feel like it shows you care.
yeah.
But it was really scary. Yeah, it wasn't an easy transition. But I think now that now that I've kind of been doing it for a while, it's definitely become easier. But every time I have a new song to sing for a group of people that haven't heard it before, it's daunting, because it's almost like you're reading your diary out to a whole room of strangers, and
Yeah.
you have to just hope that their reaction is good. And thankfully, people are nice. So,
Yeah.
uh, at least in my experience so far, anyway. So, yeah, it's scary, but it's good scary.
Yeah. No, it's good. You don't want people coming up psychoanalyzing you at the end of the
No,
show. Here's what I
definitely not.
got from it. Here's my character profile of you.
Yeah, no,
You're mentioning doing covers there. Were you covering songs that you liked, or were you trying to learn songs that you thought the general public would like?
I think when I started out, I kind of started gigging when I was about 16 in pubs and stuff, and I started out playing what I loved and what I liked listening to. And after, I think, maybe about a year or two of playing pub gigs, you'd have people come up to you and say, like, play stuff that we know, like we want to dance, we want to do
Sure.
stuff. And I think I kind of lost myself for a couple of years, where I was just playing stuff for people that that I knew that they were going to know, and I knew they were going to like. And it kind of makes you feel terrible
Yeah.
when you're only playing for to please other people. So I think now, after a couple of years of like crisis, I've come back to myself, and I've started to incorporate a bit of both. So I try to play what I like, but also what's popular
Sure.
um, at those cover gigs. But I try to kind of get as many original sets and original gigs in there, and like sneak in my own songs every so often as well, just so that I can remind myself that I am actually doing this for me and for the people that I'm performing to.
Yeah.
I think it's important to have a mix.
Could I ask then? So, when you were learning the other songs for the cover sets, did that then influence your songwriting, or was it totally divorced from that?
I think it definitely does. I think my songwriting, so I have like, you know, buckets of songs that I've had, songs that I wrote when I was in my teens and then early 20s. And um, I think whatever I'm listening to at that time definitely has some sort of an impact. So anything that I would have written when I was maybe 15, 16 is definitely more pop because I would have been big into Taylor
Yeah.
Swift and things like that. But it does have that kind of country twist still from what I was listening to at home and that sort of thing. And even now, I do find that the music I'm writing more nowadays does have more of a kind of a folky twist because that's what I'm into now. But it's not exclusively that, but it does have definitely does have an impact on the music that I write. So yeah, definitely. And
Yeah,
I
actually,
think
some
yeah.
sorry, good.
No, yeah, it's good. I find it's helpful to listen to new music and take inspiration from it, um, rather than just staying in that one kind of box of
Yeah.
what I think is good or what.
No, absolutely. I think one thing I noticed actually when I was listening to the two songs that are currently out, and I don't know if you agree with me on this, but I felt that your first single "Way," compared to your new song "Good Thing," has more. I don't know if you'd agree with this, but has kind of more of an indie rock vibe. I don't know if you would
Hmm.
agree with that or not,
Yeah, you
compared to
think?
your new song, which I think is more folk focused.
Yeah, I definitely think so. So, "Wait" was a song I wrote when I was about I think 17 or 18. So it definitely has that more coming of age kind of vibe to it. And I think we took that into the studio last year. And although it was an older song and maybe not exactly the vibe that I'm going for now, I sat down with Darragh and I wanted to give that song the I wanted to kind of make it in a way that the 17-year-old who wrote it would have wanted it to be.
Yeah,
Um, and I think I did that with that song. I wanted it to be that kind of coming of age, kind of pop with like a little bit of rock and that sort of stuff, and then have that be its standalone kind of single. Before I brought out my more kind of recent rights, which are more folky, country, Americana kind of stuff.
sure.
So yeah, definitely, they're two completely different vibes. So anybody who knows me from the first one is like, "Whoa, what's happening?" But that's how I wanted it to be. So I'm glad it comes across like that because that was a plan.
Did you have the idea for the direction that just Alice would go in from the beginning? And then, if you did, I mean, in terms of like the direction that we're hearing now on Good Thing, do you think, do you think then like bringing Weight out as the first introduction to the project? I don't know. Was there any thought about like, oh, I don't know, maybe if this is the wrong song to start with, or was it from the get go? Did you go like, no, I'm confident in this. I think this is the right song.
I think I definitely did question it for a while. So um, I've always wanted my music to be just the way it is, and the way it always has been. And so I think I started with Wait because it was an important song to me. It was one of the first songs that I ever performed live for an audience. So um it kind of held that special little place in my heart. So I I decided to record that one, and I knew that the vibe was going to be different than all of the rest of the stuff I was going to release. So I kind of wanted it to have its moment and put it out last year and just let it have its moment for a while. So then I can just start from what I've written in the last couple of years and move forward then with everything kind of the same vibe. Um, so yeah, I think it was always going to be a standalone one. It was one that kind of people knew, and it's one of those songs people are saying, "Oh, like you played this live, so we put this up on Spotify." So I put that one up, and now I can put it to rest. It's staying in its little capsule, kind of its own little genre of just Alice,
Yeah.
and now kind of I'll build on it from there. But yeah, I think good thing is the start of kind of um, the direction that I am taking my music in. So it is definitely more of that folky kind of country y. It's hard to kind of pin it down into a genre, but yeah, kind of folky country pop sort of vibe. But yeah, that's
Or
kind of what my
could
music
you
is
say
going to
it's
be.
just Alice? It's just
It's
Alice.
just me, but that's it. I don't write with purpose to be in a certain genre. I just kind of write whatever I feel at the time. And so um at this current phase of life, it is leaning into that genre, which is what I'm kind of listening to more, which is, yeah, it's good. I'm happy with it for now. So and in the future, it will probably change again in the future. And when it does happen, I'll lean into that as well. But yeah, for now,
So in 2 years, you'll be releasing death metal.
absolutely, yeah, that's the plan. I might have to get more than just me. I'm not sure if I could. I'm not sure if I could go all.
You'll be going to drop C then.
Yes. I'm not sure if I could do a good job of it on the acoustic, but I definitely give it a
Sure.
shot.
Well, actually, just before we go on to the good thing and discussing that, I just want to ask a little bit about actually starting the Just Alice project itself. So, when did you decide to kind of go in this direction of releasing original material under this project name?
So I've been writing for a long time, and I've always been curious about releasing songs and recording and getting into the studio and stuff. But it's always kind of a daunting thing when you're not familiar with it. You don't have any connections, and especially from where I'm from, very small town, you
Mm.
don't really you don't really know where to begin with that sort of stuff. So I always kind of thought, okay, that would be a nice idea, but I don't know how I'm ever going to build on that. But I started gigging a lot down in County Carlow, and the music scene down there is surprisingly great for the size of the county. It's great, and there's so many musicians down there, and there was a lot of open mic nights and slots for original music, and then they run the arts festival every year. So um, I kind of I started to go down there a lot more and started to play my original stuff. And then I was like, okay, people actually like it. And I started to talk to a lot more musicians who were also recording their music. And I was like, wow, I really want to get involved in this. And then I had that set at the Arts Festival where I got very choked up, and it was a very honest set, very emotional. But I actually met Darragh then, who runs Youngblood Music, at that set, and um, yeah, it just went from there really. So he has a studio down in Carlow, and he has a couple of independent artists signed, and he's without him, I wouldn't have had music out at this stage. So yeah, really, I always wanted it, but I just didn't know how to get that push. And yeah, being with Youngblood now has given me that push, and it's great to just have somebody who has the knowledge and has the kind of the love for music as well, the passion, and especially for smaller artists, because he's a small artist himself. You know, he knows the struggles.
Yeah.
But yeah, so I think that was kind of, it was always there. I just needed the push.
I think the working relationships between musicians and the producers and engineers is very important, especially if it's someone that you collaborate on with, in kind of a long form thing. Like it's not just like I'm working with this producer for this project, and then for the next project I'm going to work with this producer. When it is kind of an ongoing kind of relationship like that, I think it is very important to establish that rapport. I was wondering, what is that working relationship like with Darragh? I mean, does he try and influence the music and the lyrics, or is he more kind of stand off and just kind of like, I'll do whatever you want to do, lead and I will follow?
He's definitely, he lets me be the lead in terms of the creativity. I come to him with the song, and I'm like, what do you think of this song? Will we do this one next? And I definitely, sometimes I'm very stubborn, so I do appreciate kind of ideas and feedback, because sometimes I'll get an idea in my head and I want to push it through to the end. But I think I appreciate when somebody kind of challenges me, like, in that, like, oh, have you considered looking at it from a different angle? Um, and I think that's really important for me anyway, that Darragh kind of offers a different perspective, but he still allows me to be, kind of totally creative in the process, and doesn't, um, he doesn't dictate whether, I can or can't put a banjo solo
Sure.
in the song. But yeah, definitely, I do think it's important to have that good kind of relationship where I can take an idea to him, and I know that he's going to take it on board and give me good advice on what he thinks. And then if we disagree, we can do it my way or we can do it his way. It doesn't matter. But I think in the end, like we can try different possibilities. So like I think for Good Thing we had maybe 2 final versions that we were both kind of thinking different ideas sounded cool, and I think it's good to have those 2 options, and then we can kind of sit down and be like, okay, well, what do you think that the audience is going to like more, and then long term, what do you think I'm going to like more, this time next year, or with the next release, or when the EP comes out. So yeah, I do think we have a really good relationship that way. So it's great. He's great. Yeah.
And the other thing I wanted to ask about the production is, obviously you were kind of mentioning that when it comes to performing live, it is just kind of like you with your acoustic guitar. Obviously the music we're hearing on the releases are much more elaborate than that. So how do you kind of make considerations, I guess, for additional production flares versus what I can actually emulate live?
Yeah, I did have a lot of concerns going into that with this song. I didn't want to add too much to the song, because
Mhm.
I did want it to be kind of true to my live sound. And I think a lot of people with the last song were kind of expecting it to be more acoustic, and I did a kind of a bigger thing with Wait for the first single, and that was fun. It was really fun in studio and stuff, and having a big kind of sound. But I did find it was actually challenging, obviously, when you're live, then trying to emulate the song that people know from Spotify. So with Good Thing, I definitely wanted to add a little bit of flair, but I wanted it to be kind of a sound that I will be able to recreate live. So um, bar the banjo shred, I think it is something that like I can kind of recreate with a loop pedal and you know um, a beatbox. So yeah,
Or you
or a
could just
stomp box. Yeah.
vocalize it. You could just like, just do a
Oh yeah,
vocal.
layered. Yeah, but definitely, I did kind of pay more attention to that this time around. That I wanted it to be a sound that when people come and hear me live after hearing the song on Spotify, that like they can be like, oh yeah, that is the
Yeah.
same person. And I think I wanted it to just be kind of more stripped back. And definitely the next couple of singles lined up are going to be even more pulled back. Um, which I think is good. It is just me, um, so I wanted to kind of be authentic to that it is my sound, and I think the next few are going to be very that way inclined.
Let's talk about Good Thing then. So, whenever I get like press releases for songs around this time, like it actually starts around the springtime, but it's often like accompanied with the idea of like this is the song for the summer, or this like a perfect song for the summer, or company for the summer. In some ways, I think Good Thing is in kind of an atypical way. Let's say, I mean, like on
Mhm.
the one hand, and this was perhaps my interpretation. I don't want to like impose my
No, go
ideas onto you.
ahead.
But no, it seemed
I
to
love
me,
ideas.
yeah, no, it seemed to me to be a song that was actually, obviously it's dealing with, well, again, my interpretation, but it seemed to be dealing with kind of a relationship going south that's like full of arguments, and other people kind of witnessing those arguments too. But there is this hopeful kind of reprieve, I think, of like, I'm going to move on, and I'm going to this summer I'm going to become the person who I want to be, or kind of I'm going to get away from this at least. Yeah, I was wondering maybe if you could talk about the song from your perspective.
Yeah, I think you've kind of hit the nail on the head there. It is. I think a lot of the time with my music, it's very like what's written on the tin.
Yeah.
I am very honest in my music, and I don't use a lot of metaphors or anything like that. So it is what it is with the music, and I think it's very clear in that. But it is that song was a song I wrote kind of a few years back. Um, During COVID. I think we all took a lot of time for self-reflection during that time, and yeah, it was a song. I kind of wrote the song before I even realized what the meaning of the song was. I wrote it while I was still in the situation, and then I only wanted to take it to the studio after I had kind of put it to rest, and kind of had time to reflect on it and say, yeah, actually, this is this is what happened, and this is the story of it, and I want to kind of put that out there and then put it to bed and move on. But yeah, I think that's it. It is a summer song, and I think there is a kind of a little bit of hopefulness in it. Aside from the kind of there's a line in it like I don't want to be a bummer, but
Yeah.
but sometimes you are a bummer. And but yeah, no, sometimes I think I do kind of lean into that sad girl kind of singer-songwriter idea sometimes, because we all have stories and things to say, and they're not always happy. But yeah, I did kind of try to put a bit of pep in it there with the music, that there is kind of a hopefulness in it, because that story had hope, because you know, I had it, um, I had the song finished, and after I had time to kind of reflect on the whole situation, then I was able to kind of put that little bit of kind of positivity back into the production of it. Does that make sense?
Absolutely.
Yeah, yeah, I definitely did. I tried to kind of keep it. It's definitely not a summer bop, but it is. It could be a summer anthem for some people. It
No,
definitely
summer's a
was.
good time for change and reflection. You know, I think it works in that sense. I actually, I did get the hopefulness from it. Forever That's Worth, as a listener, I kind of like
Hmm.
understood, I guess, that
Good.
perspective. One thing actually, this is probably a difficult question to answer, and I don't expect you to have a definitive, solid answer on this. But you were kind of mentioning there the qualifier in the song of "I'm not trying to be a bummer," and you were mentioning there about like the sad girl kind of songs, and I've noticed
Hmm.
actually with some musicians now, there's this kind of I don't know, it's sort of like preemptively thinking about how they're going to be perceived while making the music. Is that something you find where you kind of like have to, where you're kind of like preemptively thinking about like, oh, this is how people are going to perceive me or something like that, so I should probably qualify this, or is that just a playful line and I'm over analyzing it?
I definitely think that it is something I do think about. I think I would be very anxious, and I think maybe it's just a generational thing now with like TikTok and social media and stuff, that everybody's worried about how they're perceived, and you know, how are people going to take up my music? And I think also I have a lot of where I'm from. Now I'm from Laois, so we're kind of split down the middle. Like once a year we've got electric picnic, and that's totally modern, totally like up to date with the industry. But then the rest of the year we've got kind of traditional Irish music and kind of like stuff with like more traditional people and older generations and stuff. So I think when you're playing your music, your own original music in those scenes, for those kind of people, like sometimes they're like, oh man, that's terrible sad. um, so I do think I have definitely picked up kind of a habit of being like, oh guys, sorry, pre-warning, this is going to be a sad song. Um, and I think then also having been on TikTok as well, there's a lot of that kind of like, oh, just to let you know, sorry now, like this
The
is gonna
last
be
thing you
kind of
want is
sad.
TikTok discourse.
Yes. So I do think there's kind of both sides. It's both the social media end of it and also just the like general place where I'm from, that like
Sure.
um I think the way that you're perceived is definitely maybe it's just a personal thing for me, but I definitely would be thinking about it a lot. I'm trying to step away from it because it's obviously not good to be constantly thinking about how you're perceived, because people will have their own perceptions of you no matter what you try to do. So
Yeah.
um yeah, definitely there is that kind of fear. So I usually do start off with a sorry guys.
Yeah, sorry, that was
Sorry, this is going to break your heart. So here you go. Yeah, definitely.
actually, but you know, you were mentioned there that like the songs you write are like very direct and sincere, and you know, I've spoken to other artists who kind of like do worry actually about the reception, because like, you know, maybe this is an Irish thing, I don't know, but like, you know, friends and family listen to it and kind of trying to
Mhm.
decipher, oh, this is about this, or what have you. And you know, some artists kind of lean more towards, I guess, kind of the abstract or ambiguous in order to try and get away from that. Like, was that ever a concern for you? Like, the as someone who's just trying to be like honest and vulnerable to, you know, families and friends kind of like listen to it and going, "Are you okay?" Was that a concern or?
Yeah, definitely. It was and it still is. And I think now at this stage, after having been performing my own original music live, I think people have stopped asking because
Yeah.
it is kind of that you do have that kind of awkward situation where they're like, I kind of know who this is about or what this situation is about, and I don't really want to bring it up, but maybe I should bring it up. But I think after a couple of gigs, I'm very honest at my gigs as well. I think I'm more honest in a live setting. I feel like it's easier to be honest with the crowd that you're with at the time,
Yeah.
and sometimes it might be like a family friend who doesn't need to know about your ex in in great detail.
Yeah.
But look, like I think at this stage now, after a couple of years, I'm just I think we kind of have this mutual understanding where this is my art and my form of expression, and um, we all have situations and stories and secrets and everything, and I'm choosing not to keep mine. So you can have them, just be respectful of them, and kind
Sure.
of um don't um don't
Don't
pry.
come up to me and try and ask.
Yeah. But usually I'm not too bad. Like if I do get somebody asking, I will be like, yeah, that thing happened, and we'll leave it at that. But yeah, I don't go into too much detail. But yeah, I'm fairly honest, so I kind of don't mind anymore. It's daunting sometimes, but I don't really mind being open about those things, even with family and friends and stuff.
Perfect. I just have a few last things I'll leave with. One thing I want to mention was there was a bit of latency between us setting up this interview and the release of the song. At the time of recording, Good Time is almost a week out. It was
Yeah.
released tomorrow last week.
Yeah.
I don't know how to phrase it, but if it was this saying if it was tomorrow next week, you just say oh tomorrow week, but I don't know how to do it in the inverse. Anyway, um,
Nice.
so and for me, like in that time, because I knew I was going to interview, I actually saw the song popping up a lot on like different publications like
Mhm.
mixes and playlists and things like that. And as I was doing research for this interview, I mean, like it's getting a lot of press coverage too. How have you found the reception?
Yeah, really, really good. I'm delighted with how it's been doing for the last week. I think that it's been received really well, which is nice. I've had a lot of nice chats with people, yourself included. So
Oh, thank
thank
you.
you. But yeah, I've had a lot of people asking about the song and a couple of articles and stuff. And the stream seems to be doing well, and I'm delighted that people are listening to it. That's I suppose kind of when you strip it back, all artists are the same. It's great to get streams and it's great to get press coverage and stuff, but really, like I just want people to listen to the music at the end of the day. And I've had a lot of nice messages and stuff about people kind of resonating with the song and the meaning behind it. So I think that's what kind of that's what kind of means the most to me out of all of that. But yeah, I'm really, really glad with how it's doing, and I hope that people keep listening.
Yeah.
But yeah, I'm really happy, and it kind of gives me hope then for the next few that I have planned, that people will actually like them and kind of listen to them properly. Sometimes I feel like people listen to music and it plays on a playlist in the background and the streams go up, and that's great. But it's nice when people reach out and they're saying, "Yeah, I actually really like this line of the chorus or this," so yeah, those things are really nice. It's refreshing to hear that kind of perspective.
Yeah, especially from other artists too, because like I think I don't know, I don't know if you agree with me with this, but like I think they appreciate the craft in a different way. Like everyone likes music, I think to some degree, but like I don't know, I think when you're actually kind of making music, it's just a different perspective. I'm not trying to be elitist about it. I'm just saying,
No, you're
they
right.
have that perspective,
Yeah, definitely, I do think so. I have a lot of
It's like
friends
someone
who.
who builds a house and it's like that's a really good house if they're in construction, or
Yes,
something.
yeah, it's an extra. You do feel kind
Yeah.
of an extra kind of. It feels like a bigger compliment coming from somebody who also makes music themselves. I have a lot of friends who make music around me. I have great musician friends. They're very supportive, and I had a couple of people that I released that song with last week, and they also released singles the same day, and I think it was really nice to kind of see all of our different takes on different songs that say we would have all played for each other live, and to see how we all took like what directions we all took them in. But I definitely do think that it's nice to hear feedback from other people and saying like, oh wow, like I really like this direction that you took, and I just think that it's really important to have the support from other musicians as well, because I feel like sometimes it's kind of portrayed as this kind of dog eat dog sort
Yeah.
of scary world, and it can be, but there are lovely. I was talking to somebody the other day, Louise from the Independent. Yeah, I was just saying to her that like really like it seems very scary, and it can be, but there are people out there if you can find your little niche of people, and they're so supportive. So yeah, definitely other musicians, small musicians, they always know what's up.
And also the song came out on Friday the 13th. Was there any superstition about that?
A little bit. We were in the studio and we were kind of trying to come up with a timeline for the release. And there was a lot of music coming out in June, and I said, you know what, just go for Friday the 13th. It could be unlucky, but I think we'll just reclaim it and then go with it. Go with it for the sake of it. And I think it gave me a little bit of something to market as well.
Yeah.
So you gotta kind of lean into what's gonna do well on Instagram and TikTok and stuff
Sure.
as well. So I think the Friday the 13th kind of helped with that. But yeah, yeah, I just I wanted it out there as soon as possible. I didn't really want to push it too long into the summer, because it is kind of a late spring, early summer kind of a song. So yeah.
And then I just have two final questions, and then I'll let you get on with your day. One question I was going to ask is, there was obviously Wake came out in May 2024, and there's been just a little over a year between that release and this release. What was that time like, I guess, in terms of just like, having the song out, kind of making your name as a recording artist, and then, I assume like obviously you were doing stuff in between that time, but like, what's there kind of like, was it anticipation around the next release, or were you kind of taking your time and sort of going, no, I want to make sure I get it right before I do it? Because like it's a weird thing once you have your first release out, where then there's the expectation for the second and the third and so on. So did you feel any of that pressure, or were you kind of just relaxed?
No, there was definitely pressure to get a second song out. I think once the first song was out, people are constantly asking you then, like you said, like when's the next one out? When's the EP out? And I think I did feel a lot of pressure for that, especially towards the end of last year and last summer. But life gets in the way. And I think it was kind of a mixture. So life was busy. I was doing a lot of gigs, and I kind of focused a lot on more live performance last year, after the single was out. And I love live performance. It's at the end of the day, it's what I suppose all performers kind of aim towards. And I kind of just took some time to enjoy that. And then after Christmas, then we got back into the studio. But it took a while. I think I definitely did want to take the time to make sure that I got this one right, because I know that it's going to be the kind of jumping off point for the rest of the songs that are coming out, and hopefully the EP at the end of the summer. So we took that extra little bit of time, but it was that kind of like, oh man, we got to get cracking, and get this out, because people are going to forget you,
Yeah, yeah.
the way it is. But I think now that it's out, I'm glad I waited for that little bit of time, to make sure that I got what I kind of made sure that it went in the direction I wanted. So yeah, definitely.
And then for future releases, are you planning, like, do you have like a timeline in your head of like consistent releases, or is it kind of going to be more a matter of like, no, I'll just whenever the time is right?
Yeah, I think for the rest of this year, we have a couple lined up for the rest of the summer, so those will be out soon. And then my main goal is the EP then, towards the latter half of the year. So um, I'm just kind of working towards that at the moment. So yeah, it'll be a busy summer in terms of singles and music and the EP. And then after that, I think I'll take a break for a while and just keep writing. That's my main point after this kind of batch of songs is out. Just write more music and more gigs, definitely.
Perfect. And the final thing I'll leave you with is you were mentioning like you're based in Laois, and one thing that's kind of interesting I think is that like I think especially in the last decade or so, maybe even more, I really find that like Ireland is as really like every sort of pocket of Ireland has like an interesting thing going on, like a music scene and stuff. For yourself, I mean, do you find there's any necessity to kind of be involved with the music scenes for in terms of success in the music scenes in the big cities of like Dublin, Belfast, Cork, Limerick, etc., Galway, or do you find that like no, you don't have that pressure? You feel like no, I'm very happy where I am. Thank you very much. I don't need to be involved in these scenes. How do you feel about that?
I do feel like it's not essential, but I do think it does benefit you. I spent a couple of years up in Dublin. I went to BIMM for a few years, and I lived in Dublin city centre, and I think that they're right
My
in saying that.
condolences. No, I'm joking.
Yeah, it was during COVID, so it was a struggle for kind of everybody at that time, especially music, like anybody in the music scene was just kind of lost for what to do because there was no live gigs, and it was really hard to kind of get in anywhere. But I think that the the connections that you make in music, they do kind of help you a lot. And there's people that I met when I was living in Dublin that I now meet in Laois and meet in Carlow, and those little connections are things that you might not have made if it was a thing that I just stayed here. So it's kind of hard to know. You kind of, I think sometimes you want to give so much to the music scenes in your own hometowns, and I try so hard here to push music and stuff. But I think the culture around, um, say, releases and gigs and stuff, it's just different in this part of the country. And although it's very supportive, I think sometimes you do need to kind of, even if it's just for a day, to get up to do an open mic slot for 5 minutes in Dublin or Galway or Limerick, wherever. It definitely does help. It's not essential, but I think I definitely um, I do think it's helpful.
Yeah.
It definitely is. Yeah.
Could I ask what you studied at BIM?
Yeah, I did vocals, commercial modern music. So I did voice. I kind of after a while wish I had done songwriting because it's, although I am a singer, I think my bigger passion is for songwriting. So I definitely, if I was to go back, I probably would have done songwriting. But everything for a reason, I suppose.
Yeah.
I made some great connections and friends up there. So yeah.
That's good. I mean, yeah. I mean, did you find that is helping you now, later on?
Yeah, it definitely is. I think the things that you learn from people, industry experts and people who are dealing with it firsthand and have come up through the industry. I think it's hard to get that perspective from anyone else. And I think a lot of musicians I know have been to BIM in one sense or another, whether it's been for a degree or even for a day.
Yeah,
And I think like you do get that kind of perspective from those people in the industry, which is even if you don't, even if you're not kind of if you're not planning on staying inside of that kind of niche in the Dublin music industry, like it does, you can take little bits from it and use it in your own stuff. And I do think I've learned some things. I've learned what to do, and also some things what not to do, what to
sure.
stay away from. Yeah, I think you kind of see all perspectives up. I suppose the city kind of helps with that as well. It's not just BIM, it's anything in when you're in kind of that city environment. But yeah, um, I definitely do. I do still use some of those things. I probably always will. But yeah, I think the connections are the most important. And definitely that was good for that.
Perfect. Well, thanks very much for your time, Alice. It's really nice talking with you. Is there anything you would like to add before we wrap up? Anything we didn't cover that you think people should know?
No, just stream the song if you can,
Yeah.
and follow my socials if you can
Yeah,
as
want to
well.
plug them?
Yeah, my socials. You can find me under It's Just Alice on Instagram and Just Alice Official on TikTok and Just Alice on Spotify. So
Perfect.
Just Alice everywhere.
Thanks very much, Alice, and enjoy the rest of your day.
Thank you. You too. Thanks so much for having me on. Can't wait to hear
Absolutely.
it.
Thank you.
Thanks so much, Aaron.
Take
Have a good
care.
evening.
You
Bye.
too. Bye. Thank you for listening to that episode of Post-Burnout.com interviews. We're an independent venture run by yours truly, and as I said at the beginning, liking, rating, subscribing and sharing really helps us out a lot. If you're feeling extra generous, we do have a PayPal donation link in the episode description, but don't feel obligated, of course. We've also begun releasing occasional exclusive episodes on Spotify, so subscribe there if you'd be interested in hearing those. Thanks again for listening, and see you next time.